damage that your Luna can pump out with just the Lunar Blessing by being alive is quite a lot. So he does have to be fearful of this, as he even pops the spiked Carapace to try to avoid some of the damage, but 2 of those hits alone, taking out nearly a fifth of his HP, and ROTK, meanwhile, at bottom, is doing a pretty good job at bottom.
Yeah, he's had to deal with a Skywrath Mage spam, but seems he's brought enough reach in to be able to position himself very forward in lane, and because of the fact that Tusk is doing this, kind of really interesting pull scenario, as you can see it right now, exactly how it works. Looks like it does kind of bug out. Looks like the Centaur was still trying to come forward, but the Ice Shards just weren't on the perfect position. Either way, because they don't have an actual stun here in the bottom lane, the Darkseer just has to bring regen to deal with the Skywrath Mage's damage, and then he's fine. There's not much killing potential, just harassment.
Yeah, Universe is being zoned out really heavily in this top lane right now. DDC and YJ are just doing such a good job of forcing him out of this lane and making him uncomfortable, but they are going to push out the lane. This is what happens. The Luna just has such high base damage that CSing for her is so easily done, and it's just going to kill the creeps a little bit faster than you would like, and Universe is going to grab his level 3. And meanwhile, at bottom, ROTK just continues to get levels. He almost has a Soul Ring, and once he does that, I don't actually think he has to be in this bottom lane anymore. He can probably just go to the jungle camp. Because yes, you can disrupt some of the Gyrocopter's farm, but it probably isn't worth it at the risk of your own farm. And they might even go on him at bottom, as he is out of mana, but he's just going to start the surge early. But he might have just trapped himself, as Fear's got phase boots, and he's looking for the angle, but just backs off.
Put a little bit of pressure, I guess, assuming that RTK was going to be able to get away. They also could have bought maybe a TP scroll from the side shop and gotten out that way. But he'll just pop a couple more surges, getting on back to base. Back over to our middle lane. CTY's 27, 28-4 now, compared to the 23-3. Considering this is a matchup that's favored to the Leshrac, this is a very even CS.
Oh, it's beyond favorite to the Leshrac. So the fact that Sumail is somewhat close to this is going to be pretty impressive, and I'm just waiting to see how this goes, because eHome, if they lose another game to Storm Spirit, I would have to imagine the rest of the tournament, they're just going to live in fear of it. So yeah. This is a pretty big game, not only for eHome to keep their hopes alive, but just so it's like a confidence booster, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we can deal with this hero. We don't just have to first or second ban.
Yeah, limits your drafting capabilities if you have to always ban out a Storm Spirit in the second banning phase, rather.
Yeah, and so Fear just continues to free farm just behind the Luna, but he has an Enchanted Mango. I like that, right? It's pretty neat. It's like a nice way of having HP regen and at the same time
that extra bit of mana necessary, especially since he's versus some of these heroes that do have a lot of pressure that they're able to put forward. There's probably going to be some early team fights that happen, and you never know. That Mango could actually come and be the sort of savior, the extra rocket barrage to win the fight.
I'm a little concerned right now for EG, though, because eHome's supports are just doing a good job of getting ahead and keeping up in levels, and PPD is only level 2, AUI is kind of suffering equally, and they haven't been able to make anything happen, but EG's lineup, no.
I think PPD really suffered from missing one of those Ice Shards pulls.
Yeah, you have to be really precise with that, I think. Universe is rotating down to this bottom lane, and maybe they just switch completely and send PPD to the off lane. I've seen them do this before.
Why is that?
I think it's just because maybe eHome feels it's not worth it necessarily to dive the Tusk, and in this way, Universe can just switch with Fear, who can even go to the jungle or rotate to the top lane himself to pressure the Luna.
It just seems Nyx Assassin is, compared to certain heroes like Tusk and Clockwork, is maybe a bit more farm dependent than those heroes. He obviously picks up his level 6, and that's what gives him his ganking mechanism. But
this
Courier,
rotation.
eHome, do they want it? Do
They're
they not want
about it?
No,
they can't do it anymore.
No,
they waited too long.
They hesitated way too long. That's going to be a smoke spoiled. They do get to see some of these stacks, though, and they can actually farm it up. They've got the Lightning ready to go. They also have the Winter Wyvern Splinter Blast, so they're going to go for it. Meanwhile, top lane, we do have a 3-man smoke. We'll see how that goes as eHome clear through stacks.
This is what I was talking about in the very beginning of the game. I don't know if they switched to us in time, but Luna's such a weak hero that you can just rotate in and kill her, and she's not even going to have enough time to pop anything.
Nope. Immediately taken out by the snowball. And silenced up as well, unable to get off that ultimate. It's funny thing is, like, YJ was backing up at the right time, too. So they actually are just making a full-on lane switch. That's what they're doing. So they're putting Universe now at the bottom lane. And with that, obviously, smoke up. They transfer their tri-lane to the top lane to put pressure on Luna. Universe, smart TP out, it seems.
That failed smoke by eHome just had so many ripple repercussions for EG. Because if they had been able to kill the gyrocopter there, then maybe he isn't able to go to that top gank where they kill the Luna and it slows down EG even more. Right. And they're able to get some control on the map and they force somebody down to help out Fear. But it was just weird because they had the opportunity to get the courier. And then they decided to go for it after it's past them, over the tree line. Like, they'd all have to hit it twice for them to be able to get that. But
indecision is a killer.
Yeah, they just had to go for it or not. I think they probably could have killed Fear if they hadn't done that, but it's not going to matter. They should be able to trade towers here, but still, it's those little things that kind of separate you from the top.
Yeah, it's why the reason we're really pointing it out is these things specifically is what has oftentimes gotten eHome behind when they're actually playing usually a very even and crisp, clean game.
Play smart than just one or two execution mistakes.
Our TK now has his level 7. Evil Geniuses have been clearing through the enemy jungle, though, with the regeneration of some mail. He's got a decent amount of farm. Looks like he's going to be going for the Orchid first. Makes a lot of sense versus the Leshrac, obviously.
Yeah, they're actually all grouped up here at top, and Fear, he's not really afraid. There's not a whole lot that can burst him down where PPD and AUI can rotate in to help him, and they're even going to slow down the push at top by dragging the creeps over, and it's just going to get AUI as level 5, get PPD some much-needed experience.
There are some rotations out from eHome up to this top lane now, but Fear is already backing himself up. He's going for a rather stat-heavy build. Phase Boots, Ring of Aquila, and the drums all being committed for with the Magic Wand on top.
Alright, so they just smoked S3. Sumail doesn't have the best mana pool to work with, but it shouldn't matter.
They see a lot of heroes already, thanks to this ward, which Lanham just countered. Still looks like they're going to go for CTY first. DDC does not have the ultimate to counter. He just has the Cold Embrace, so...
They're waiting for him to push up a little bit more, and EG's prepped for this, but it does look like eHome have an understanding of what's going on, especially when they decided to deward that ward, but Sumail just might want to walk away with DDC at the very least.
Yeah. Smoke, not the hero they really wanted, but it's something they just have to content themselves with. It's better than the eHome Smoke, which missed the courier, I suppose.
Yeah, you get away with something at that point. The hope is that you kill the Leshrac, further slow down his Bloodstone, but if not, getting a support is better than nothing here. EG, they've taken control of this top lane pretty heavily, but it does leave the rest of the lanes open, and if you notice that YJ realizes that the safest place on the map is the enemy jungle, and this is the correct play here. So just pressure out the enemy jungle, allow your team to farm in safer places.
What do you think about the Mask of Madness on Luna?
It's really cool. You can farm the Ancients really quickly. It allows you to just propel your farming really fast, but
much more likely a Helmet Dominator for this game.
Yeah, because you need a Satanic against EG's lineup. Yeah. The EG have a ton of burst, and the only way to survive burst as the late game carry is to have a Satanic to be able to turn it around. I know there are some players that like to go for the Mask of Madness, but I think in this game especially, just the HP that you can get out of the Satanic without having to build any stat items is pretty important.
Yeah, and I would also say for like the early to mid game, like Evil Geniuses are very clearly going to put a lot of pressure on eHome, and Mask of Madness is more of a farming item than anything else.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think eHome do want to get in fights. Like they have the type of lineup for it.
Yeah.
When you've got supports like Rubik and Winter Wyvern, they're not the most self-sufficient, and they're definitely not that useful outside of fighting. You're not going to farm with those heroes and change the game. You're going to get into fights, get good Winter's Curses off, do things of that nature to try to get ahead. It's not even like their ganking is very efficient, right? Mm-hmm. Winter's Curse is okay, but the cooldown on it is so long that you can't really afford to miss it very often.
Mech is about to be finished up by ROTK. He's trying to deal with this push at the bottom lane. How's Universe doing in levels? He's got his level 6 plus Arcane Boots, but he's pretty far behind in farm, especially when you compare it to ROTK. It's obviously unfair to compare these two offlaners. One very clearly has an advantage farm-wise, but...
Oh, and they actually deward that, so I think EG will also know that they have a ward up there, because how else would they have known that they placed it up there, right? But eHome's in a really good position once again. Once they get the mechanism up on ROTK, they'll feel pretty comfortable because Universe is pretty underleveled, and he can't afford to miss very many ganks at this point. And CTY is getting really close to his Bloodstone. At the same time, Sumail is a little bit further away from his Orchid, so the farm advantage, eHome can definitely take control of it.
Yeah. So, and especially with the Orchid timing on Storm Spirit, like he's naturally a hero that you want to group up against, right? Because Storm Spirit isn't particularly strong in 5 versus 5 team fights early on. He just like naturally just doesn't have enough mana. Plus, Orchid is more of a pick-off item than anything else. So you're naturally going to want to group up anyway. And it seems like eHome's plan is just going to come together at the right time. The mech, you have the decent amount of stats on your Luna, level 6, and some stats on the Leshrac. Even Winter Wyvern's ready to go.
And they are actually smoked up. They want to take this top tower after this gank. AUI is not even the main target here. It's just that the lane is pushing in, and this is an easy push right after.
Good time for it. Quickly being able to burst down both the Skywrath Mage as well as the wave of creeps. And Evil Geniuses are kind of unlikely to make the rotation. In fact, you could already see Universe starts backing himself away. But eHome aren't going for the tower. I thought you were spot on the money there.
Yeah, it's really common. Because you're seeing PPD at bottom. He doesn't have enough mana. Even if he TPs, he only has a snowball. The Gyrocopter isn't interested in fighting here at this point. Same with the Storm Spirit, especially when the Winter Wyvern is level 6. So the top tower was pretty easily takeable. Like they had a catapult and everything, and they had the momentum. Like there's no way they anticipated that smoke from eHome.
I think maybe eHome are just maybe a bit too tepid after the game 1.
Yeah, but in some ways, I like that they still go for the win like that, and I feel like this would have been a similar situation. I think if they were playing any other team but EG, they would have continued to go for that tower. But I think that was just a case of a little bit too much respect, but I don't want to harp on it too much, but I did think that was the correct play. Bloodstone is going to be completed on CTY. A mech is completed on ROTK. The Luna almost has an Ogre Club. You don't want to wait for the full BKB. It would open up a little bit too